Some people aren't afraid of failure, afraid of stopping, because stopping means feeling. And feeling means remembering what they've tried so hard to outrun. For many, rest is not a relief. It's a threat. It's where the silence gets too loud, where the memories come back, where the mask slips. If you've survived by doing, slowing down can feel like danger, because motion protected you. Achievement distracted you. Overworking was your armor. You learned that rest was a luxury you couldn't afford. Or worse, something you didn't deserve. You weren't lazy. You were afraid. You weren't ambitious. You were exhausted. But in survival, no one tells you that. They applaud your productivity. They reward your hustle. They call you strong. While inside, you're crumbling. And yet, you keep going. Because stillness feels like standing in front of a wave you can't control. So you run. You keep busy. You fill the silence with noise, the space with tasks. Anything but being still. Anything but stopping. Because deep down, you fear what might surface. When you're finally quiet, what might you hear? What might you feel? And would it break you? Or would it finally free you? Many of us confuse burnout with identity. Forget who we were before the urgency, before the performance, before we became machines in human skin. When did you learn that being tired meant you were enough? When did exhaustion become your currency for love? The world may praise your effort, but your nervous system tells the truth. It flinches at rest. It braces for safety, like it's a trap. Because comfort was once dangerous. Because safety wasn't consistent. Because when you let your guard down, someone hurt you. So now even calm feels suspicious. Peace feels foreign. Stillness feels like failure. But it's not. It's just unfamiliar. Burnout isn't always loud. Sometimes it looks like numbing, or constantly multitasking, or not knowing how to answer the question, what do you do for rest? Because rest was never taught, it was punished, or labeled selfish, or withheld until you earned it. And so your body learned, safety lives in motion. So now it fights stillness. Even when you're safe, even when nothing's wrong, you feel like something must be wrong. Because peace doesn't feel like home yet. But that can change. It begins with noticing how hard it is to do nothing. How itchy it feels to be still. How guilt creeps in when you choose rest. That's not failure. That's unlearning. It's unlearning a system that equated worth with work. Unlearning survival patterns dressed up as ambition. You are not broken for needing rest. You are not weak for fearing it. Your body is doing exactly what it was trained to do. Survive. But surviving is not the same as living. Living asks for something softer. Living asks for breath, for pause, for space to feel again. And that space will feel terrifying at first, like a free fall into yourself. But you are not falling. You are returning. Returning to the version of you that existed before the urgency, before burnout became normal, before your nervous system forgot what peace felt like. That version of you still exists. Quiet, waiting, beneath the noise, beneath the fear, beneath the rush. You are not too far gone. This is where we begin. Let's talk about what happens in your body when rest feels unsafe. It's not just a mindset. It's not laziness or weakness. It's a nervous system response. One shaped by years of needing to stay alert, years of tension becoming your baseline. So when calm arrives, your body doesn't recognize it. It thinks something must be wrong. That's not your fault. It's just wiring. But wiring can be rewritten. Gently, slowly. Rest is a relearning. And at first it might feel awful, because your system has learned to find comfort in discomfort, in chaos, in noise, in doing. So stillness feels like a threat. That doesn't mean it is one. It just means it's unfamiliar. Think of a wild animal raised in captivity. You open the door to the forest, but it doesn't walk out. It hesitates, because freedom feels too big, because the cage, though painful, was predictable. Your nervous system is that animal, and healing is not the door. It's the slow walk toward it. Some days you'll inch forward, other days you'll retreat. That's okay. That's healing. You don't have to be brave every day. You just have to be curious. Curious about the stories your body tells. Like why you get anxious on weekends, or why a quiet room feels louder than a crowded one, or why you keep checking your phone when there's nothing to check. That's not you failing. That's your nervous system scanning for threat. It's doing what it was trained to do. It just forgot how to feel safe. You can remind it, gently, with breath, with pause. With one moment of noticing, I feel tense without needing to fix it. Rest doesn't begin in stillness. It begins in awareness. In catching the tension in your jaw, in noticing you're clenching your fists again, in realizing you forgot to exhale. These small observations are not small. They're the beginning of safety. You can't force your body to relax, but you can invite it. Like coaxing a frightened animal with open palms. No demands, no expectations, just presence, just gentleness. That's where safety grows. Not from pushing harder, but from softening. Even when soft feels dangerous, even when you're not sure it's working, trust is not instant. It's built, layer by layer. With every time you rest without apology, with every time you say no without guilt, with every time you breathe and let the breath stay, you are allowed to need rest. You are allowed to feel scared of it. You are allowed to take your time learning how to receive it, because safety is not a switch. It's a slow remembering. Return to what was once natural before the world taught you to fear it, before urgency became your identity. You are not a machine. You are a soft, sensing being, designed to rest, designed to pause, designed to feel. And if feeling is hard, that's not failure. That's history. A history you're allowed to rewrite, without rushing, without fixing, without perfection. Healing is not a finish line. It's a homecoming. Like any return, it takes time and tenderness. You don't have to arrive quickly. You don't have to arrive at all. Just begin walking it. One breath, one pause, one moment of rest that doesn't need to be earned. You're allowed to feel safe. Even if it takes years, even if it takes lifetimes, you're still worthy of the journey. Burnout doesn't start in the office. It starts in childhood. In families where love had to be earned, where being useful made you feel safe, where being still meant being scolded, or ignored, or forgotten, so you learned to perform. It's a hustle for belonging, to be what others needed so they wouldn't leave. That wasn't your fault. It was survival. You became efficient because you had to. You became responsible because no one else was. You became the helper, the fixer, the achiever. And people praised you for it. They called you mature. They called you strong. But they didn't see the fear underneath. The fear of resting, the fear of not being enough. So you built a life on urgency, on productivity, on always being on. And even when your body begged you to stop, you kept going. Because rest felt like failure, like letting someone down, like losing everything you worked for. You didn't want to stop. You wanted to feel safe enough to stop. There's a difference. Burnout is not just about being tired. It's about being terrified of what happens if you slow down. Who am I if I'm not doing? People still love me if I say no? Will I fall apart if I stop holding everything together? These are not silly questions. These are old wounds. Wounds that shaped your rhythm, that turned overwork into your normal, that made exhaustion feel like home. You're not broken for feeling this way. You're not weak for being tired. You're carrying too much. You've been carrying it alone. And somewhere inside, you still believe you have to. But you don't. You don't have to prove your worth through output. You don't have to earn your rest through exhaustion. You don't have to suffer to deserve care. You just have to exist. It's enough. You don't need to be everything to everyone. You don't need to save the world to be loved. The people who taught you that were also surviving. Their urgency was inherited too. You can be the one to break the cycle. Slowly. Not by doing more, but by choosing less. By saying, I matter, even when I rest. By trusting that you are lovable, even when you're still. Even when the dishes are undone. Even when the emails wait. Even when all you did today was breathe. That's not laziness. That's healing. And healing doesn't happen at full speed. It happens in pauses, in cracks, in moments that feel like nothing but are everything. Like lying on the floor and watching the ceiling. Like sitting with your hand on your chest. Like crying without knowing why. Those moments matter. You matter. You never needed to earn that. You only needed to remember that rest is not the reward. It's the foundation. You're allowed to build on it. You're allowed to begin again, even if the first step is just stopping. Even if all you do today is whisper, "I'm tired." That's a holy sentence. It's a brave confession. That's a seed. And seeds don't bloom through hustle. They bloom through time, through darkness, through surrender. You don't need to push. You need to trust the soil. Trust that what you're becoming is already within you, quietly growing, even when you don't see it, even when you don't feel it, especially then. Healing begins when you start to listen, not to the world's expectations, but to the whispers of your own body, the sighs, the tightness, the flutter of anxiety. These are not signs of failure. They are signals. Your nervous system speaks in sensations. It's telling you that something's not right. Maybe your pace is too fast. Maybe you've ignored your needs for too long. Most people don't notice until their body screams, until sleep disappears, until food loses taste, till joy feels foreign. But the truth is, you don't need to reach the edge to turn around. You can start listening now. You can start by asking gentle questions. What am I afraid to feel? What happens when I rest? Whose voice do I hear when I feel guilty? These questions don't need answers yet. They just need space. Rest is a radical act when you've learned to fear it, and reclaiming it is not a one-time event. It's a slow rewiring, a quiet rebellion. You might try resting and feel restless. That's not failure. It's your nervous system doing its job, scanning for danger, even when none exists. It needs time to learn that rest isn't a threat anymore. So you give it time. You give it repetition. You rest in tiny moments. 5 breaths, a stretch between tasks, a pause before you speak, a walk without a destination. These are small acts of restoration. They build trust, because your body needs to trust you again. It needs to know you won't abandon it, that you won't push it beyond its limits, that you'll listen when it whispers, not only when it screams. This is slow work, unsexy, invisible, but deeply sacred. It's not about changing everything at once. It's about honoring one moment at a time, choosing one breath over burnout, choosing presence over performance. Your value isn't in your output, it's in your being, and being takes practice, especially when doing has been your armor. So be patient with your discomfort. Sit with it like you would a frightened child. Offer it warmth, not war. Tell it, you're allowed to rest now. You're safe here. Maybe the first time it won't believe you. Maybe not the second either. But over time, the message will land. Not in your mind, but in your body. It will start to soften. Tightness in your chest will ease. Constant vigilance will begin to loosen. This is the language of safety. It isn't spoken. It's felt. In quiet mornings, without urgency. In afternoons without guilt. In evenings where you're enough even if nothing got done. That is how rest becomes safe again. Not by forcing it, but by befriending it. By inviting it in without expectation. By trusting that you were never meant to earn it. Rest is not a luxury. It is a birthright. You are allowed to claim it. Even if your past says otherwise. Even if your body still flinches. Even if your mind races through to-do lists. Rest anyway. Not perfectly, not completely. Just gently. Begin with a moment. Begin with this breath. Close your eyes. Feel the weight of your body, the pull of gravity, the quiet between heartbeats. You are here, and here is enough. Nothing more to prove. Nothing more to do, just this moment. You finally allowed to rest. What if the part of you that fears rest is trying to protect you? Not sabotage you, not punish you, but protect. Maybe it learned that slowing down meant danger, that idleness invited criticism, that stillness was unsafe. So it built a fortress of busyness. It called it discipline, excellence, ambition. But underneath, it was just fear wearing a suit. Fear of what happens when there's nothing left to distract you. Fear of the quiet ache inside. Fear of hearing your own voice again. When you've spent years outrunning silence, it becomes a stranger, and strangers feel unsafe. So of course your body tenses when you stop. Of course your mind flares up when the calendar is blank. It's not because you're lazy. It's not because you don't know how to rest. It's because you've survived by staying busy. And survival habits are hard to let go, even when you're no longer in survival, especially then. Because the threat is gone, but the reflex remains. It will remain until you teach it something new. Not with force, but with repetition, with reassurance, with presence. Sit beside your resistance. Don't rush it. Don't scold it. Ask it what it's afraid will happen if you stop. Listen with curiosity, not judgment. You may hear echoes of old teachers, parents, systems, voices that said, "You're only valuable if you produce. You must earn your right to exist. Don't be lazy. Don't slow down." These weren't truths. They were wounds. And wounds echo until they're tended. You are tending them now. Every time you pause. Every time you choose sleep over another task. Every time you whisper, "That's enough for today." That is a form of reparenting. That is nervous system repair. That is ancestral healing. Because many before you didn't have the luxury of rest. They didn't have space to feel, to pause, to breathe. And yet here you are, giving yourself what they couldn't. First, it may feel indulgent, like you're doing something wrong, but you're not. You're just breaking a cycle. And breaking cycles doesn't feel graceful. It feels clumsy, rebellious, uncomfortable. But it is sacred work. You are showing your nervous system that peace is not dangerous. You don't have to earn your worth. That love can exist without achievement, and presence without pain. This is a new language. Your system may not be fluent yet. That's okay. You're not behind. You're not failing. You're learning, and all learning begins with discomfort. Stay with it. Hold the shaky parts of you gently. Remind yourself, this is unfamiliar, not unsafe. This is healing, not failure. Because the truth is rest will never feel safe overnight. But it gets easier, breath by breath, choice by choice. Until one day, stillness will not feel like drowning. It'll feel like home. A home you built, slowly from presence, from care, from courage. A home where you are allowed to exhale. Not because you earned it, but because you exist. That is enough. You are enough. Even now, especially now, you don't need to push through this. You need to feel your way through. Gently, honestly. This isn't a race. This is a return. To yourself. To the body that waited patiently for you to listen. You're listening now, and that matters more than you know. Keep going. One pause at a time. One choice at a time. One soft return to rest, until it feels like home again. There is no quick fix for a nervous system shaped by survival. No shortcut to trust when your body only knows urgency. But healing is possible, and it rarely looks like what you imagined. It might look like crying in the shower after saying no for the first time. It's like lying awake, heart racing, after canceling plans to rest. Like doubting yourself every step of the way, but still stepping. That's the hidden shape of healing. It's not always soft. Sometimes it's jagged and trembling. Sometimes it looks like falling apart. But what if falling apart is what makes space to rebuild? Not to become someone new, but to remember who you were before the world told you to earn your worth. Before the pressure, before the burnout. There was a you who knew how to rest, how to play, how to breathe. That part of you still exists. Maybe she's buried under schedules and shame, but she is there, waiting for your permission. So today, give it. Say yes to one small thing that feels like ease. A longer shower. A slower breakfast. A breath before replying. These are acts of defiance in a culture of urgency. These are acts of healing. Your nervous system doesn't need perfection. It needs consistency, repetition, reassurance. Like a child learning they are safe to sleep. It takes time. And time is not wasted on this. It is devotion, not to productivity, but to aliveness. To the version of you that isn't constantly bracing, that isn't afraid of slow, that isn't ashamed of rest. You'll meet that version. If you keep choosing peace over pressure, it won't be easy. You will forget. You will fall back into the rush. It's okay. Every return is practice. Every pause, a protest against the lie that you are only worthy when useful. You are not a machine. You are a garden. You need seasons, of blossoming and of stillness, of doing and undoing. Your winter is not a failure. It is preparation. For blooming again in your time, You were never meant to be always on. You were meant to pulse, to rise and rest, to work and wonder. This is the rhythm of life, and it lives in you. You're allowed to follow it. Even when the world doesn't understand, even when your fear begs you to run, let the fear be there, but don't let it drive. Drive gently now, toward stillness, toward peace, toward a homecoming. The road is not straight, but it is yours. And every step you take, every pause you claim is sacred. You are not lazy. You are learning to be human again. Not the version built by hustle, but the version born to be whole.
S.
And wholeness includes rest, includes softness, includes slowness. So breathe, let go, begin again, not with force, but with permission to rest, to heal, to come back to life on your terms, in your rhythm, without apology, without a finish line, just breath by breath, moment by moment. You are safe now, not perfectly, but enough. Let rest be your rebellion. Let healing be slow. Let presence be your new normal. You are allowed to exhale and stay. Welcome home. This is quiet philosophy, where thinking isn't loud, and life doesn't need to be either. Subscribe if you haven't already, not for noise, but for something you can actually feel.